Mixed reactions to the president's changes to foreign aid and international policies. The Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, eliminating more than 90% of foreign aid contracts at the U.S. Agency for International Development, or USAID. The agency offers humanitarian assistance in some 120 countries around the world, offering food, health care, including vaccines and prenatal care, as well as disaster relief and clean water. But it also promotes ideologies contrary to church teaching, advocating for LGBTQ inclusion and the advancement of gender ideology around the world.
$8 million to promote LGBTQI+ in the African nation of Lesotho, which nobody has ever heard of.
Pro-lifers celebrated President Trump's reinstatement of an expanded version of the Mexico City policy. The policy prevents organizations around the globe that receive federal health funding from providing abortion-related information and from providing access to the deadly procedure itself. He was also praised for rejoining the Geneva Consensus Declaration, a coalition of nations united in support of pro-life, pro-family, and pro-women policies. The international declaration's objectives include securing meaningful health and development gains for women, to protect life at all stages, and reject abortion as a means of family planning, to defend the family as a fundamental unit of society, and it also recognizes the sovereignty of a country to reach these goals within their cultural means. Valerie Huber, the architect of the Geneva Consensus Declaration and president of the Institute for Women's Health, sat down with me earlier this month to discuss President Trump's impact internationally on the pro-life front. Valerie, USAID has helped millions of people get access to health care, but it has also promoted abortion. What is your take on cuts to USAID?
Well, I have to say that as we have been working with countries around the world, especially the last 4 years, while there's been a lot of great things that USAID has done, when countries mention a USAID, they have only talked about the ideological colonialism that's part and parcel, and that's come out as a result of President Trump and his leadership. There definitely needs to be a reset. I'm eager to see what 2.0 looks like, and I was very encouraged with what Secretary of State Rubio said just a short time ago, where he said, we aren't against foreign assistance, but it needs to be in line with the interest of the United States and for the benefit of those countries we partner with. That is music to my ears, and I know to those countries that the U.S. will be partnering with in the future.
Great. And now President Trump reinstated the Mexico City policy. In your global view, working for the Institute for Women's Health, what is the impact of that decision?
Well, that's another really important policy. I'm just so excited to see everything that President Trump has accomplished in just the first 100 days. In fact, I was talking to some colleagues not long ago, and I said, you know, the first 100 hours seemed like the first 100 days because there has been so much accomplished. The Mexico City policy, as you know, was instated during President Trump's first administration, where they expanded it to include organizations across all of global health, international organizations, to prevent any from being funded that receive from any source funds if they provide abortion. What that really does is eliminates fungibility of U.S. funds. And why is that important? I'll give you just one illustration.
That'd be great.
Not long ago, I was at an event that was mostly attended by those who were supportive of abortion, especially abroad, seeing it as an international human right. And they told the friendly audience that if women in the developing world are looking for a place to get an abortion, all they have to do is look for organizations that provide post-abortion care, and they can go there to get an abortion. Why is that important? Because USAID and our foreign assistance has understandably funded post-abortion care to prevent death for women who have undergone illegal abortions. However, if organizations that have as one of their priorities the provision of abortion, and they are telling pro-abortion advocates that they can send people to these organizations, my question is, how do you separate U.S. funds from what they are then doing under the auspices of something funded by the federal government? So the Mexico City policy is not only important, but it should be enshrined in U.S. law.
That's great. Now, let's take a step back a little bit. Can you tell us the impact of the Trump administration rejoining the Geneva Consensus Declaration?
Well, of course, this is another great accomplishment of President Trump. In the first 100 hours, not only did he reinstate the Mexico City policy, but he also rejoined the Geneva Consensus Declaration. That means there are 39 countries that are currently a member, the U.S. being the most recent. But what that does is puts wind behind this coalition, which it's a political declaration, but there are commitments within that defend the family, improve women's health, state there is no international right to abortion, and that it's the sovereign right of countries to defend life and family. When the United States says this is an important priority of us too, think of the reverberations all around the world as a result.
And have you seen concrete examples of that?
Yeah, so just recently at the United Nations, the U.S. mission to the United Nations and the State Department called for a special event inviting all the members of the Geneva Consensus Declaration into our mission. I was privileged to be a part of that, which I, of course, was very honored. But that's significant because it is showing that the United States isn't merely rejoining, but they are assuming a leadership role at the United Nations, in public statements on behalf of the U.S., statements coming out of the White House, statements coming out of the State Department. It's very exciting, and I am eager to see that coalition double at least during the next 4 years.
Oh, and before we close, what pro-family policies are you working on?
Well, we just returned from Africa, where we're partnering with countries to operationalize those commitments that I just named in the Geneva Consensus Declaration. What that does is it not only empowers them, shows them that there are Americans and American organizations that share the same values and priorities for their country, but it also helps them not only build kind of a hedge of protection around their country to defend those values, but it also helps them find practical ways to implement that in country for the benefit of their people.
Thank you so much, Valerie, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.